it got kind of hairy last time. Devil came down to paradise, train landed on Ellie. It was kind of gross. But let's hope that Marshall Kevin will make things all right. I don't know. Here we go.
Hello, and thank you for joining us this evening. The more astute of you and the quicker of I will notice that there has been a slight change in the top row for tonight, and we'll get to that very shortly. But first, I wanted to mention one thing that our channel is doing this month, the month of September. We are donating any subscription money directly to the charity of Extra Life. Thank you for doing the X. I forgot the name and I didn't write it down. Thank you. It's going right to Extra Life Charities. So please subscribe, not for us, but for the kids. Don't get me wrong, we benefit too. With that, let's introduce, first of all, these fine storytellers who are with me this evening. Let's do it in the order we normally do it. Starting right next to me, Noctum Sky playing the disturbed and damaged Jet. Next to him, our special guest star for the evening, Ryan, who will be playing someone apparently called Baptiste, at least according to his gravestone. Next in line, down there at the dark end, which is kind of appropriate, our Undertaker, Lucius, played by Lessamax. And in a row all by herself, the mighty, magnificent, and not always ladylike, it turns out, Alice, played by Sarah.
What in the wild you are talking about, sir?
Nobody saw it but the narrator.
Don't you worry about it.
So last week, some things happened to some people, is the short version of what happened. We spent the first half kind of working through some personal issues with some of our characters. Some of them had the fear of their past drawn into them from a dream that they had after an amazing planning session for a weapon, the basis of which is now broken. Others used their bad dreams to make a connection, to almost receive an invitation. And as I mentioned, Lady Alice had a moment when no one was looking, where the ladylike demeanor fell away from the slightly more robust and vengeful, let's just come right out and say it, Lady Alice that nobody saw. Well, that's not true, actually. You're right. Jet saw just a brief glimpse into the stabbing in the throat with a piece of glass. Let's just come right out and say it. She stabbed a guy in the throat with a piece of glass and then adjusted her petticoats and continued on as if nothing had happened. A little later on, after the break, a number of things occurred. A group of bad guys rode into town, causing an uproar, which was clearly a distraction. But a distraction from what? Because one group of people started robbing the bank, and another group of people started chanting and wearing weird cultisty robes and walking up the hill towards the ghost rock mine. The Jet and Alice, along with the sheriff and a couple of civilians, suppressed the foolishness quite quickly. The bank robbery went horribly wrong when apparently the bank that was to be robbed didn't have any money in it, and so in a fit of rage, the local bandit king blew up the entire building. You guys at various times kind of got spread out. Lucius was left watching Alan Campbell until said Alan Campbell got himself hammered and passed out behind the bar. So you arrived at the scene of what can only be described as a ritual sacrifice, sort of one at a time. Ellie arrived first and tried to wait. She really did. She really tried to wait until backup got there, but a life was at stake, and so she opened fire. And then all hell broke loose. There was a gunfight. There was a flat-out murder. There was a sacrifice. And as a result of that sacrifice, a thing that shouldn't have been able to happen happened. The mine became an entrance to another place, maybe even another time. And out of that mine blasted first cold air, then hot air laced with heat, smoke, and fire. And finally, I mean, there's no other words for it, the train from hell blasted out of the side of the Ghost Rock mine, landing on the trails of this incredibly steep, foolish railway. It's actually called Milton's Folly by the locals. And in a blast of flame that destroyed all the vegetation in the bottom of this valley, that train careened down that hill, right past all of you. And as it did so, the creatures, the insubstantial creatures inside, reached out and grabbed those cultists and dragged their bodies through the windows. And at the front of the train, with amazing speed considering the size of the appendage involved, a huge red demonic arm complete with claws came out, snapped the banker Kerwin's throat, and pulled him into the engine. So no sooner had the last of you arrived at the top of the mountain than you turned around, bumbled, stumbled, skidded, and fell all the way back down that mountain to try and get to town to help. Because from that vantage point, you saw that train ride down the hill, turn sideways, come off the rails, destroy several buildings, including the end-of-the-line saloon, and careen into the tent city, destroying who knows how many lives. The time you arrived back in town, those insubstantial forms inside had taken over the bodies of the cultists and climbed out of that train and started to attack the locals. But this is the Wild West, and the locals fought back. Especially that amazing sheriff. You guys got down just in time to deal with the real problem. Baphomet himself, a demon, although I'm sure Lady Alice has another explanation. But that demon, for lack of a better word, burst out of the cabin of this train and proceeded to, let's not put too fine a point on this, maul you guys. As a result of his attacks and the vigorous and perhaps not entirely well thought out use of some dynamite, we ended up in a situation where our deputy, Jet, is half a block up the road. His whole left arm, every joint dislocated, the shoulder, the elbow, the wrist. And then insult to injury, when he was flung by this demon from another realm, he landed where? On his left shoulder and skidded up the road, feeling the bones grind in their sockets. Vision came down. The pain was just overwhelming, and then it came back enough for you to see the rest. One huge explosion, then another huge explosion. The train moves and then moves again. You hear a scream, and Ellie is pinned under one of these carriages of this hell train, her other leg shattered by Baphomet's attack. Lesamek stands at Baphomet's feet, looking up and up and up as he swings his shovel in what looks like a hopeless attack. And Baphomet grabs the shovel and just snaps the head off and drops it and laughs. Lady Alice fires several rounds into Baphomet, who looks honestly surprised that any damage was done at all. And without appearing to be wounded in any significant fashion, but just frustrated and angry, he flew away. So, if everybody would like to draw 3 chips, put them on your sheet.
But
I thought it was
hear more stories.
4 this week. You're absolutely right. 4 this week. You're absolutely right. For the excellent role play last week. Thank you. Everybody gets 4. Our Jet. Yep. Even first session. And of
Ryan
course,
listened.
Sky, you are muted. But yes, you have to roll first to see whether you get 3 or 4.
Oh, I already drew them all. You just take the lowest.
You throw one away. Right. Yeah. Absolutely. So as you guys get those and place them on your sheets, let me know when you're done. And while we're doing that, let's go back down this rabbit hole to our very own Poison Paradise.
I'm good.
The three of
Okay.
you see Ellie scrambling backwards as the train approaches. It stops. The second explosion goes off. She scrambles back again, but this time she slips. And a train car, 80 feet long, it's on its side, 15 feet high, slides up her left uninjured leg to just past the knee. She looks down, her eyes go huge, she screams, an almost inhuman scream, and goes limp. She's still breathing, but she is very much unconscious.
I start thinking back of certain memories of someone at the train station,
Mhm.
and I run over to Ellie, and I start saying, "It's okay, it's okay. I'm here. Lily, don't die on me. I'm here. Don't worry, Lily."
She is completely unresponsive. It's all happening again. The
Lily,
face
stay
keeps
with
flickering back and forth.
me. Stay with me, Lily.
I don't know what he's doing, but Alice is looking at the train to see if there's any way that we can get this thing off of her.
You're not moving this train. The only way you're getting her out is to dig around her leg and probably break a tie or two. It's not something that you would be able to do right now.
I start digging like furiously, like
Your hands are
dear
pulling
life.
gravel and rocks. Yep.
The shovel I tried for a little bit, but of course it's broken. So
Yeah.
just furiously, like frantically digging.
So Alice, the Undertaker has lost his shit.
Yeah.
He's calling her the wrong name. He's tearing his fingernails. He's pulling these rocks out from between the ties.
I don't know if, because like I feel like Lily is close enough to Ellie.
It's close.
That
Yeah.
Alice would kind of maybe be like, oh, maybe he's just, he's like caught up in the moment. It's like not, because it's fairly close. So upon seeing that there's really nothing I can do for her, I'm gonna go find Jet.
There is, I will mention quickly, there is coming off the engine, when it crashed, the boiler broke. So there is steam and smoke rising off of it, and you can smell the sulfur and you can hear the screaming that ghost rock makes when it burns. That tower of smoke is about half steam and half ghost rock, and it's going right now. There's no wind. It's going straight up. But as you look up, the top of it's starting to get sheared off by a wind that's 100 or 200 feet up, and it's starting to blow.
Oh boy. Is it looking explodey?
It looks like the boiler itself has already broken. That happened when it
Okay.
impacted. This is just that there's on a steam engine, there's a firebox and then your big container of water, right? Your steam container. And
Okay.
those have both broken open. So the firebox that was full of burning ghost rock is now exposed to the air.
Ooh.
And next to that, there's this huge steam container that's just creating all this hot air that's just lifting that smoke up into the air.
Which direction is it blowing when it gets?
It is blowing more or less down the valley from let's bring up the valley map because I actually want to show you what the valley looks like now.
I don't want to know.
You probably don't, but it kind of looks like this. That gray area is all the area that was burnt when the train blew out of that and it shot flames off to the sides. Part of that is still on fire. Most of it has gone out. But looking up the valley behind you is just devastation. I don't know if you've ever seen after a forest fire. It's just like black wooden toothpicks.
Yeah.
That's all there is. And half of them are still smoking. You turn around and look again, and it's blowing south from you.
Okay, so it's not blowing. So currently, it's not blowing right into town.
No, it is actually blowing away from town. Yeah.
Okay. She's like, she's kind of in a panic because there's poison like in the air there, just
Yep.
chilling, and but
Ellie's
then
down.
Ellie's
The
down.
Undertaker's lost his shit.
He's losing
Jet's
it.
laying in the middle of the street.
I imagine she can't see him. I imagine she probably like doesn't know. She didn't.
He's probably 100, 150 feet up the street. This thing flung him.
Yeah.
Am I even awake?
You are now. Yeah. When you hit, the pain was just overwhelming. Your world got about this big. And then you're coming back now. So yeah, at this point you sort of sit up, and as you do, that arm just flops back behind you and just the pain comes back again. You sit up and sort of cradle your arm.
Oh. And I just see, I guess I could still see them though, so I probably
They're right down at the end of the street.
Well, as soon as I see Ellie pinned, I'm up because I don't know how I'm up. I guess one arm on the ground, pushing up, just trying to get to my feet and just get back over there and see what is happening.
Yep, and you stumble back south, and as you do, Jet, you notice first. The others, it becomes obvious over the next sort of 30 seconds. First, there's this incredible silence after this explosion and after this gunfight, and you realize that you've been running at full adrenaline now for hours, and it's starting to wear off. But you turn behind you, especially you, Jet, because you're sort of in town, and there is a calmness, but there's people coming out of houses with bed sheets and bottles of iodine and scissors, and they're starting to tend to the wounded that are in the street. They're even starting to take the dead and put them in respectful positions along the sidewalks. And coming around the corner just north of you, the sheriff. His left arm, now that the battle's over, the adrenaline's off, his left arm is hanging almost as bad as yours. He's been shot right through the shoulder here. And he's limping very badly because he's been shot in the thigh as well. And right behind him is the doctor. And she's just pointing at people. She's triaging. She's like, to the surgery, that one can wait, as they walk down the street. Just this, the two of them are just projecting this calm professionalism. You realize that as far as what's going on in the town behind you, it's being dealt with.
Alice wants to go see if she can find the blacksmith.
Okay, so you head north to go find the blacksmith.
Because maybe the blacksmith can has some tools that would be useful in getting Ellie out from under this train, is my thinking.
Absolutely, that's a very good idea. So you head north to do that. The others, the two of you that are left, I will mention, you look behind you again, and there's the end of the line, well, the remains of the end of the line saloon. One wall still standing, just like half of the back wall. And you hear a clattering. And a couple of pieces of wood start to move. And this one thin hand comes out, a white cuff and in a black jacket. And then the head comes up. And I just realized the two of you have never seen this man. This little spindly dude with his greasy hair parted down the middle, his little string tie. And he, as the hand punches up into space, it opens up and you see two bent, slightly burnt playing cards in his hand. And he sits up. I need a drink. You can just barely hear it at the range of you. And he starts digging through the rubble. He looks horrible. He can hardly stand.
Well, I don't have time for that.
I'm not of sound mind. I'm just still digging. Probably didn't even see him. And just yelling, "Lily, stay with me. Stay with me."
Yep. Baptiste, you are following a certain urge, a certain calling. A direction is all you really have. You don't know this area real well, but you know where you'd put a town if you were in this area. You can see a valley ahead of you. And you're paying attention, thinking, I'm getting close. And then there's smoke from that region. First, like forest fire smoke, white smoke. Then a tower of steam and black smoke rise. All your experience tells you That's not good.
Okay.
You're still 5 to 6 miles out of town.
6 miles?
Yep.
I dig my spurs into Rebecca, fastest horse I've ever known.
Yep.
I'll be there in a minute.
And down the road at full speed. Quickly back to town.
Alice is just looking. She's what? Oh God, what was that blacksmith's name? I don't know that I have it written down. So Alice is just like wandering around, and I guess because she would be passing people in the streets.
Genevieve, that was her name. Genevieve Trent.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And she was
Yeah,
passing people in the street.
And as you head up this street, you see the same thing that Jet sees. These people are responding like trained professionals. And you realize, I mean, to some extent, this kind of makes
like
sense.
almost like
There's
this
been
has happened before?
not so much that, but that they're more like they're ready for anything. If you remember again, there's a civil war that's been going on for decades. So
Yeah.
most of these people would have military experience, or at least experience of somewhere near, because this town's only been here 20 years. These people are from
Yeah.
elsewhere. Right? So, but somehow there's a hell train sitting on the end of their town, and they're still focused on helping each other.
They're just, yeah. So Alice would walk up the street, and I guess she would I would ask, like, if
Mhm.
anyone has seen Genevieve.
And the sheriff looks at you and says, probably in the stables or over across the street with the horses. I suspect they got scared hell out of them by that. And the doctor gives you one look up and down and just dismisses you because you're not injured.
Yeah, I'm fine. I think I have a light injury on my arm that I forgot about.
Yeah, just
But-
you're not,
Yeah.
you have failed triage. You came fourth in a triage, right?
Yeah.
There's 3 levels and you came in the 4th one.
But I want to come next. No, so if she be with the horses, I guess I will go towards the stables,
Yep.
listening for the telltale neighing of many horses.
And as soon as he mentions it, you can hear the sound of stressed out horses trapped in a stable. They're kicking the walls, they're neighing, there's some banging and crashing. You can even hear her voice going, whoa now, whoa now, whoa now. And she's trying to, and another voice you haven't heard, but there's at least 2 people in that building trying to calm the horses.
And Alice is like, Fancy, no, my horse is over there. She kind of looks around before she does it, but she picks up the hem
Yep.
of that dress and takes
And
some
gets
of
the
them and
hell to Fancy. Yeah, you slam open the door and you can see what's happened. Fancy is a properly educated young lady who knows how to behave.
Mhm.
She is in her stall. The rope's not tense. There's no kicking. There's no fuss. She sees you and just like nothing happened. But around her, there's 2 horses have broken the gates of their stalls. One was just a rope. The other one was actually a little swing door. They've broken out and they're trying to get out of the stables. And they are like, white-eyed
Yeah.
horse. They are gone. They are red zoned. They are panicked. And they're hauling these 2 young women around. One of them you recognize as Genevieve. The other one you don't recognize, but obviously the person who's running the livery.
Yeah.
And the 2 of them are on one horse, and the horse is still just dragging them around the room.
So there's just the 2 horses right now that are that
There's
are
2
the main
free,
concerns.
and then yours, and there's a couple others that are still in their stalls that are kicking and banging, but they show
Okay.
no immediate signs of getting out.
Okay. Whichever one, I guess. Well, I guess since I know Genevieve, I would the one that is pulling her. I'm gonna maybe try to.
Give me an animal handling or animal rank. What is it called? Animal wrangling.
Is
Yeah.
it the wrangling? It's the
Wrong
wrangling.
game.
There's
Wrong
so
game,
many
wrong stat.
things. I got nothing. So that's one of the Mien.
Yep, one of your mien and -4.
Right. So I'm just doing the 1d10, and then that's yeah.
Yeah.
Nope.
You grab a hold of the rope and she kind of slams into you and you kind of slam into her. And for a second, the rope goes slack. The horse rears up just like that. And
Basically.
then out of just sheer reaction, you see this other young lady who's already got one horse and is being dragged around. Her hand just snaps out and grabs it, and she just looks at the one that you guys just dropped, and she just says, "That's enough," and it just goes still.
Yeah. See,
the
that's
other one
why
is like this at the end of the arm, but
that's another reason
she's-
why Alice helped Genevieve first, because like the other one, she's the stable.
she's the stable girl.
You know,
right? She's the stable lady. So,
she's the one that is
and
most experienced.
apparently what's happened is by you coming in and doing this, they were kind of panicked. The people too. I mean, some weird shit just happened.
Yeah.
But that kind of snapped her back into it, and within a couple seconds, she's got both of them under control, and she's walking them back to their stalls. Just going to quickly cut back to Jet, because Miss Alice goes rushing past you up the street. You're like this coming up the street. You see the doctor approaching you, and she's giving you the look, but you keep going because you're Jet.
Yeah.
And you get to where Miss Ellie is pinned under the train. And it's been a minute, and Lucius is still shaking her and holding her and clutching her and calling her Lily.
Is he digging or is he like
He's
holding?
his fingernails are torn back. I forgot he said that. Yeah, his fingernails are torn back. He's pulling out the stones. Like the stones in a railway are quite big. They usually use big flat rock, and he's trying to pull those out from around the tie. You can tell in a split second her leg is trapped between the tie and the train. So this digging that he's doing is not going to help. It's going to help, but it's not going to get her out. But he's just panic digging.
Okay. If I can tell she's still breathing, then I'm gonna real try as easily as possible to just come up behind him and just real slow put my hand on his shoulder and be like, "Hey, partner."
Don't shoot. Please don't shoot us. Please don't shoot us.
Whoa. And I'm gonna
Take my money. Take my money.
Hey,
Leave us alone.
hey, partner. Hey, and I'm gonna kind of like try to, not forcefully, but gently just kind of turn him a little bit and look at him and be like, "It's me. It's just me."
You snap out of it.
Yeah, I snap out.
You're back here. This is Jet. This is now. This is not then.
I'm sorry. What's going on? Oh my God. Right. Ellie. You, Jet.
It's all right.
Can you help me, please? Can you help me?
Yes. Yeah, partner. We gotta get her out of there, but I need you to be I need you to be there.
Right. Of course.
So in this process, I'm assuming you're sort of trying to turn him away from Ellie?
Just
to try
enough to get him to
look
see
at you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But obviously only with my right arm.
Yeah, exactly. So Lucius, he's kind of helping you to your feet, and you kind of breathe for a second. That was a bad memory. Oh shit, did they just hear me say that?
Yeah.
And before you even have a time to think, you hear galloping hooves. And you look over Jet's shoulder, and riding towards you is an apparition of absolute terror.
Is this familiar?
Yes. Baptiste, let's have you describe what he sees riding into town at high speed.
So, at incredibly high speed.
Yeah.
And if I'm coming up upon this as he gets closer to it, Baptiste is actually half out of his saddle at full gallop to hit the ground running.
Mm-hmm.
Baptiste is 6'3" or 6'4", maybe only 150 pounds. Skin is sort of pale, almost gray. You have no idea how old this guy is. He looks like he's carved out of wood. Lines drawn in his face. And as he rides, he's got this big black duster that flies behind him. But you can clearly see long purple stole with small gold crosses on the bottom of it. Black boots with silver tips and a white collar. as he hits the ground. Which of the three of these looks the worst off?
Of the three that are there, there's an unconscious young lady on the ground pinned under the train. And then there's a tough-looking cowboy fella who's holding his clearly messed up arm. And I mean, there's no two ways about it. The boy's an undertaker. He's got the big hat. He's got the suit. He's got this broken shovel in his hand. And you look him up and down, and physically, he appears to be okay. But he was shaking when you first saw him, and the closer you get, the worse it gets. So one more little bit of description I would like. Could you please describe the pistols that are on your hip as you hurled that duster back?
Yeah, so you kind of can see him as he hits the ground. So there are two double action peacemakers, and they're actually reverse hung. So he clearly draws these cross-armed.
Yeah.
And one of them is an ivory grip with black detailing, and one of them is an ebony grip with white detailing. These pistols each cost more than 2 horses that are running around.
So
And they are slung in a way that this is a gunfighter.
Yeah, the belt is worn. There's tracks where they've been drawn 1,000 times. Sure. Lucius, this is right out of your nightmare. This is the man that was striding across states to come and get you. And here he is, seconds after you just relived that. What is the first thing he sees when he looks at you?
When he looks at me?
Yep.
Just pale, like I saw a ghost, and I mutter under my breath, karma.
And Baptiste, you close that last couple of feet, and there is an unconscious lady in rough traveling clothes. She is not dressed in any sort of, she's not wearing a dress. She's not, she's not a femininely dressed person at all, but she is, her jeans are on nice, I believe it's a pale blue blouse, long brown hair, and she is pinned under this train unconscious.
Okay.
Standing above her is this wounded cowboy.
All right. So with her unconscious, and I don't know if that means dead or not, I got an undertaker that just looks spooked, and then I got someone who's clearly harmed.
Yep.
So as he sort of hits the ground in the puff of dust, he actually reaches down and puts his hand fairly gingerly on Jet's shoulder, the hurt one. So he's very careful about it, and says, young man, unless I'm mistaken, I think y'all could use a little bit of assistance. And Jet will actually be able to heal 1, 2 wind.
Okay.
Y'all mind telling me what happened here?
I'm just staring blankly at you. Just.
Are you backing away, Lucius?
Maybe a step back, but that's it. Just
kind of trapped between Lily and
I look like I'm trying to get my shit together, and
which I mean, given the situation, is reasonable enough. But yeah, you do notice this one fella seems to be actually frightened of you.
That's an interesting interaction too, because up until that point, I would have had my hand instinctively toward my pistol, because someone riding into town at full gallop right after that, I would have been like, whoa.
Actually, as he skids to a stop in front of you, are there any identifying marks or, other than the apparent, the purple stole with the gold crosses, anything else that they can see on or about your person?
The white priest's collar and the guns are probably the most the things that catch your attention for one of two different reasons.
So the big thing is there are 2 clues on this man that tells you he's a gunslinging priest.
Mm-hmm.
Still, I've seen weirder things today, so my immediate reaction would have still been like, and I would have reached. I wouldn't have pulled it, but I would have been ready to.
And
But-
his eyes flick to the fact that your hand is defensively on the edge of your pistol, and that's part of the reason why he's so gentle about it. But I think you probably can clock that he sees what you're doing, recognizes it, continues.
Yeah, and at which point I would have been like, "Yes, sir. We I don't know what the hell just happened. She's the worst off. We got to get her out from under there." And I point down at Ellie.
Is there anything I can assess from this situation?
Medically speaking, he's not in any life-threatening danger.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't appear to be either. She's got some very bad damage to her right leg, but her left leg appears to be pinned. But if you had to guess, you'd say she's unconscious more out of reaction and fear and terror. And one thing you do notice as you lean in to have a good look at her, all of the exposed skin on her face and her hands, it just looks like it's been very slightly burnt. Like all the hair is missing, not off her head, but off of her, like she's been too close to a flash. Of course, you didn't see the demon fall on her, so you wouldn't know the cause. Yeah.
Do I think if we were to grab like railroad ties or anything like that to try to all wedge, we could lift this enough to drag her out?
It looks like you could certainly and as you start doing that, you do the math, and it's like, yeah, if enough people help, these ties are quite long, you could find a point of leverage. And as you start doing that, some of the citizens of town start coming towards you to help. They've sort of cleaned up the downtown area. You look ahead and you see rows of dead on the streets, but they're all covered. Somebody's done this properly. Right. And there are wounded. There's a female doctor walking down the street towards you, and she's, like I said, triaging on the way, and she's within sort of 30 or 40 feet of you guys. She's given that group a look, but then gone back to her locals.
As everybody's starting to put these things to try to do this leverage thing, he'll call out. Baptiste kind of will call out and be like, "All right, now, ladies, gentlemen, we're going to do this all on 3. Coffin maker, you want to grab her arms and give her a good old tug now."
Yes, absolutely. I ready myself.
And on 3, and
Pull.
her out. And for just a second, she stirs.
Easy, easy.
And at that point, the doctor arrives, and she looks down and she says, "That one goes straight to the surgery." She looks at you, Jet, and says, "That's not going to kill you. You can wait, but I would suggest some rest."
I'll take Ellie straight to surgery, and I tell Jet, if I can, I'll try to attend to you when I get back.
I can wait.
The doctor gives you a look like, "That's my job."
Just basic medical stuff. That's all. Trying to help.
This guy cannot get a job.
No. Meanwhile, back at the stables, the horse is now under control. Genevieve looks at you and says, "What the hell happened?"
Well, I don't know that they got the train off her, so I don't rightly know. But Ellie, the girl, the train is pinned on top of her leg. We have got to get that. We've got to get her out from under that train.
And she looks at you and says, "Come with me," and runs across the street to the actual her foundry, her forge. And she runs through the door, and you see she doesn't even look. A hand just snaps out and comes, and she starts handing to herself these like 8-foot long crowbars. They've got a little curl at one end, and she's got 5 or 6 of them. And she just turns around with them in her arms, and it's like that long and this big around. She's got 6 of them in her arms. Of course, you did see this woman running a 12-pound sledge with one hand. So, she's a blacksmith, and she says, "Lead me there."
Okay, I'm gonna do that.
And you guys tear ass back down the street. As you come around the corner, there is this gunslinging priest standing in amongst your friends, your party. Well, friends might be a strong word so far. Alice, I don't know. Maybe Ellie. But
Yeah,
amongst your
she's
group.
starting to like Ellie.
Mhm. And you see, just as you guys come around the corner, you see them pull Ellie out from underneath the train as these guys use basically the ties to lift the train off of her.
Alice is like, how in the what? And then when she gets up to Jet, she's gonna say, Jet, where in the hell did old Shoot and Pray come from here? You're muted.
You're muted.
Jet, why aren't you
You're
talking?
muted.
I muted myself. I was saying, I don't rightly know. Oh wait, this arm's not there. I don't rightly know. I as soon as I was able to get up, I made my way over here. You were gone. And
Well, I went to get the blacksmith because I thought that was how we were going to have to get the train off of her.
this fella seems to know what he's doing because he came right on in and managed to get it off of her with our help with this railroad tie. So he seems on the level. Lucius I don't know what was wrong with that boy. Something, but he's all right now.
At
Huh.
this point, Dan Comfort, the newspaper man, you see him jogging down the street.
Oh, he's okay. Oh, thank goodness.
He's got his little pad of paper and his little pencil stub, and he's just looking and writing and looking and writing. You can tell, Alice, you know him well enough. He is suppressing a smile. I mean, this is a horrible situation, but what a story.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just his hands just going so fast you can hardly see it, and you can just see his eyes processing as he comes running around the corner towards you. He stops for half a step, looks at the train, and then just keeps coming.
Which, I gotta be honest, now that Ellie's okay, Alice is ready to set up and take a picture.
And as he approaches, he looks at you. Where's your camera? This ain't gonna happen twice.
She's like, well, I had to get Ellie out from under the train before I could stop and take a picture.
You didn't take a picture of her trapped under the train?
At this point, with my good hand, I'm going to smack his little pen and paper out of his hand. I'm going to be like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Dan Comfort, reporter.
That's great. Why are you... This is not a story, sir. This is a...
Hell, it ain't.
Alice is like, well, actually, it's going to be a very good story.
And it's just daggers at Alice. It's like, I don't have time for this nonsense even more
Not to mention the business opportunity. Can you imagine how much people will pay to come and see that? And he points at the train.
Speaking of which, we've got to do something with that. But Alice is going to start setting up her camera. I want to get so it's like, how many cars is it? How many cars was it?
There's 3 carriages that are all sort of smashed against each other, although the one that's closest to you has been moved twice by explosives.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, it's separated, and that's where the coal car, which is Ghost Rock Coal, and the engine itself, they're actually in the tent village.
Okay. I want to
interrupt
try
anytime,
to get...
anybody. That's particularly for Ryan. This is how I play. Interrupt anytime. So.
If I can, real quick, 2 things. I wanted to try to clock when that guy said that he was a reporter.
Yep.
Baptiste wants to see if there's any recognition from the reporter of who he is.
Who he is. He hasn't really looked at you yet, so you're kind of watching him. And as he's talking to Alice, you see him sort of out of the corner of his eye register that there's somebody here that he doesn't know. And his eyes turn and yeah, they get a little big. And
so at that, Baptiste just sort of shakes his head no at him and pulls the brim of his wide preacher's hat down and sort of just towards the group in general says, I think I might look in on that friend of yours, and walks towards wherever the doctor was.
And that split second of the little sort of, you don't even finish the shake, and he's gone. He is looking back at Lady Alice like nothing. He is, I mean, he's a newspaper man. He's pretty good at picking up stuff. So he bends over and starts picking up his pen and his paper again.
I'm with Baptiste. As soon as they started that nonsense, I was just like disgusted. I'm out, gone.
See,
So-
for as far as Alice is concerned, like she's not a doctor. She has no medical skills whatsoever. So like, what can I do? Like, all I'm gonna be able to do is stand there and be like, I hope you're okay. Like,
I realize I didn't do this.
okay, so Alice is gonna try to set up. I want to try to get. I know. Well, the thing, it's still smoking, right?
Oh yeah, and you can
Okay.
see now it's been there for sort of a couple minutes now. It's sort of like a thunderhead cloud. It goes straight up, and then the wind shear, sort of a couple hundred feet up, is peeling it off and pushing it down the
Okay.
valley.
I want to try to find kind of a elevated area where I can get like a kind of a down shot of all the carnage and the train and this, especially the steam engine.
Sure. Well, this whole town is in a valley, so
Yeah,
with a
that's-
little bit of work, you can kind of get up the hill and get set up. While you're doing that, go ahead and give me a roll, a photography roll, and the
And she's
rest-
enlisting Dan's help, obviously, with all the the lifting. You're like, here,
Sure,
move it
absolutely.
there, move it, do it, move it there, and then she'll check it.
and he is just like he's actually suggesting to you, maybe if we throw some more water on that, it'll make some more steam.
Alice would be like, "Oh yeah, that is a very good idea. Go do that."
And he's just off to the town well and comes back with a bucket, and he's right on the side of the and the steam is billowing up, and he's right. It's more impressive.
Yep.
So go ahead and give me that.
Okay.
Meanwhile, the two of you heading into town. Oh, Lucius, what are you
That's
doing?
Awful.
I'm carrying Ellie to
Right.
surgery while also just like panicking in the back of my head. It's like, how is he here? How is he here?
So
Like,
you walk into the surgery, and the doctor just looks at you and says, "On the table."
yes, ma'am.
And you put her down, and because there's this flash in your head every time you look at her for just a second, it's Lily, and so you don't want to let her go. And this cold hand lands in the center of your chest, and she pushes you back with ease. Leave me room to work.
Right. Is there anything I can do to help? I do have some basic medical knowledge.
You can get out of the way.
Right. I
There's
just
plenty of dead ones outside.
and I just leave respectfully.
Yeah.
Please take
And
care
as you
of
walk
her.
out, you see the two coming towards you. This new person and Jet hobbling towards you. Well, Baptiste is not hobbling.
I'm hobbling.
So that thing where every step hurts because the swelling has started now, right? It's been a while. It's not just dislocated, it's now swollen. And when you landed, you've just figured out there's gravel in there. Like it's ripped open a little bit.
I come up to Jet and say, "Do you want me to help you?"
Friend, I might just wait for when the doctor's got a little more time.
That's fine. That's fine. Just
But
anything I can do to comfort you. All this while I'm just looking at Baptiste as I talk to you, Jet.
Yeah, Baptiste, you've seen a lot of guilty faces in your career. This is a very guilty face.
Okay. Just sort of narrows his eyes at you and like looks you up down a couple of times. Says, "I certainly hope you're asking to help him as a friend and not a professional colleague yet."
No, I do have some basic medical knowledge, so I have actually patched him up a couple times.
yeah.
And he's telling the truth, but he's not making eye contact. He's just like anywhere but at you, right?
What
Was
did
weird.
the doctor have to say about your friend in there?
Just told me to get out. So, probably the best thing to do to give the doctor some space. So let her work, as you said. Let me-
The two of you want to fill me in on what exactly that iron horse back there has to do? I've got a feeling it's a bit supernatural in nature.
Can I tell by his mannerism? Well, I guess I could because I can see he's a priest. So, let's see
Yeah,
if I
mannerisms be damned. He's got the collar and the stole. He's a priest, or at least he appears to be.
let's see.
My absolute favorite sentence to say as a dungeon master. At least it appears to be.
Appears to be.
I can't really say. Something extremely terrible. Just there was a cult ritual on top of them, on the top of the mountain. Um, the banker, he almost possessed, just made a sacrifice, and then the train just spawned from the mountain, and it grabbed him and his cultist, and then down the mountain went. And then from there, you saw the carnage. We actually fought against his cultists because they came out of the train completely different, like demons. One of them actually looked like Baphomet himself.
When you say that, he sort of leans in and bristles a little bit. Either the two of you ever seen this, and with his boot heel, he'll draw that Y-like symbol in the dirt.
That's exactly it. The sign of Baphomet.
Well, come the end of this week, them dead ones may be the lucky ones. And he'll actually walk into the doctor's office.
As you do, Jet, you look up because there's a movement on the top of the doctor's office. And there's a raven. There's always ravens here. It's a very particular raven, with feathers so black they look blue. And she, because you know it's a she now, you've heard her voice, looks at you and flies down the street and lands on top of the sheriff's office and pecks 3 times on the roof. Bang, bang, bang. And looks at you expectantly.
Boy. And I just walk that way without even saying anything.
Baptiste, you walk into the doctor's office.
I'll follow Jet.
And there is an amazing scene in front of you. There is a machine. There's 5 or 6 people on tables, and this woman, I mean the word machine not in a mechanical sense, but in a the movements are so precise. She's cutting off clothes, she's bandaging wounds. It's like watching, I was going to say a professional, but it's beyond that. It is, this woman has got military experience, no question. She is in her element. She is not out of her depth, and there's half a dozen near dead people on the table. If you had to guess, they're all going to live. She turns and looks at you for a split second. Another one.
He stays out of her way, absolutely, and just sort of watches for a second. Until she's not actively working on their friend.
Yep, she turns and she's wiping her hands, and she steps towards you.
As she walks up, taking a look, kind of as a nod to all of those, says, my worst one was at Shiloh. How about you?
Antietam.
Well, I'd say praise God for not being there, but we all know he wasn't. And takes a step towards the friend. And like starts to put a hand like on her forehead and looks to the doctor for permission first.
She smiles at you and says, "Do what you must." And she reaches out and puts her hand sort of on your shoulder, but the fingers come up and touch just the side of the neck. And they're ice cold.
He just gives her that sort of half squint and then turns his attention down to the young lady. So I got to actually ask you a couple of questions. So as far as my rolls go, I know what I've got here.
Yep.
But I do need to know her wound level.
Yeah, these because these are the worst of the worst. These are all at least level 3 or level 4 wounds. There's no amputations as of yet, but the one that she was just working on has a level 3 wound, essentially.
Okay, all right. So that's a level 3. A level 3, 8 minus 3 still gives me a success and a raise.
Yep.
So
So she does. Yeah, you start doing your thing, and this young lady on the table responds almost immediately. There's a shock of pain as you start working the wound, but then as it starts to heal, as it starts to feel better, you see her relax and drop back.
All right.
And as you step back and turn around, the doctor is looking at you a bit quizzically. She says, "Huh. Never thought I'd meet another one. How goes the battle?"
Well, one battle at a time, I suppose.
"Thank you for your work. If you need any help."
Well, I suppose I should say the same to you. If you need any help, is anyone here needing my other priestly services?
There's the ones that didn't make it are outside. I don't know if you're one of them that has to get to them before they're dead.
Are any of these nothing but waiting to pass on?
And she looks around the room, and you see her just like making judgment calls. And the very last one in the corner, she says, "I can't rightly tell if I got to that one fast enough.
So
These will make it to the morning. That one I'm hoping."
So the very last one, he'll go over and he will take out the white peacemaker, which the doctor can make out across the bottom of it is written the word forgiveness, and says, "You may want to leave the room."
And she looks at you and closes her eyes and said, "I was going to stay, but I got nothing to
Shot
prove."
rings out.
Yeah, she's turning away as the shot rings out.
And then he gives last rites.
And she you see her kind of tense as the round goes off. And as it's echoing in this tiny room, she just goes back to the patients and starts working again.
Walk back over to the friend because Baptiste doesn't know her name. And asks what her name is.
This is the one on the table?
Mm-hmm.
She says, that's Mary. She lived in that first house on the way into town. And when you came in, you could tell that first whole block was decimated.
Mm.
I mean, you didn't see the accident, but it's pretty obvious what happened. You may not know where this train came from, but it's clearly a train wreck. Quite literally.
Yeah, so he'll probably take the next 20 minutes or so, just each one using their name and saying prayers and Hail Marys and things like that for each of them.
And she keeps giving you quizzical looks. Oh, go ahead.
No, when it's done, he'll come out to find Lucian with a body in his hand. Lucius with a body in his hand. He's coming back in.
Yeah.
Sorry, but she keeps looking.
Yeah, she keeps looking at you quizzically. And she finally says to you, "You're a true believer. You."
there's a difference between belief and knowledge. And I found out that God was real a number of years ago. 3 years right after the war began. I know he's real. And goddamn him every day.
That sentiment I can understand. And she goes back to working on her people.
Walks out.
Jet. And yes, Lucius walks in with the body. We're going to quickly cut to Jet here. You get to the sheriff's office. Doors open because the sheriff ran out to help. You look inside. There's nobody in the cells. There's nobody at the desk. From the roof, you hear tick, tick, tick. You're still standing just outside on the street.
I guess I'm gonna look up and see this just because I'm more trying to figure out what this bird's trying to tell me. And if I don't see anything there, I'll walk in.
The bird watches you walk underneath. And as you walk in, you hear wings. But she doesn't come in the door. She comes through the window. But the window's closed. The glass is there. You can see it. You can see the hot sun shining off the glass. And this raven just passes right through.
That's cool.
She comes over and lands on the desk in front of you. I'm assuming you sat down at the desk.
Oh yeah. As soon as I saw that, if she landed on the desk as I was walking in, I'm actually gonna sit in the like receiving chair, like at the other side of the desk. Just
Mhm. And she turns her head and looks at you and looks at your wound. And she hops up onto your other arm, the healthy arm. And she kind of uses her beak to pull it away from your shoulder. And using a series of movements, if you let her, she wants to pull your arm down onto the desk. So it's just resting flat on the desk, your healthy arm.
Okay.
She hops up on it and she looks at you again. And the eyes go down to your arm and the beak comes very slowly down to your arm. And it touches a spot you remember because when you were 6, you were running on the farm and you ran into a barbed wire fence. There was a scar on your arm from that day forth. Of course, it disappeared in the mine. But as you watch, her beak very lightly traces the line of that scar. And behind it, there's that little scratch mark. You know that little white line when you almost cut yourself? That little raised sort of sensation? She does that just along your arm. And it hurts a little bit. It's almost a tickle, almost pain. But the weird part is it starts to pulse. Not in a sickly way, not in an infected way. Powerful way. It starts to spread over your body. And she looks at your other arm and hops onto the table. And then hops, you've got it sort of like this, sort of leaning against yourself. And she hops up and very uncomfortably, clearly perches right here. And you remember there was another scar on this arm. It was a couple of years later. You had cut yourself with a knife while you were using one, and your father had told you not to. He told you were too young, and he came into the room and you went and tried to hide it and cut yourself with it. It was quite a bad cut. And you have time to think that before her beak drives into your arm and rips that wound back open. And it hurts. But the power. Oh, the power. It's like a drug. It is just pounding your heart, just your brain. And this beautiful voice that you've heard before says, heal it. Heal it. Make a vigor check for me, please.
That doesn't sound good. Because that doesn't sound like one of those things I have. Oh.
A 9. Okay. You look down at that wound as she hops off of your arm and back onto the table, and you're thinking, heal it? Heal it? What does she mean? And you're looking at that wound, you're thinking, that's the wound. How am I supposed to heal that? And your shoulder goes thunk back into its place. You did that. Not her voice. That's your voice in your head. You did that. This is what she means. Boom. The elbow's back in place. Boom. The wrist is back in place. Hand works. Swelling's gone. You hear behind you as the gravel falls out of your back and lands on the floor behind you. What's left is a gaping wound on the inside of that arm. You have one wound on that area now. The other ones are gone. She tilts her head at you and says, "You must be exhausted. You should sleep." And you're just, the energy is gone. You were drained. All that power that made you 10 times as big as you were, it's all gone. You're empty. There's nothing left. You, Jet, have never been this tired. And that's saying something. You can't help it. You just start to drift. And over you go. The last thought you have before you go to sleep is, oh God, what now? And as you go to sleep, you feel wings, black wings, just wrap around you. They're huge. They're bigger than you are. It's like being in a cocoon. It's like being safe. And you relax into the sleep. And you're gone. No dreams. Not one. You're not waking up till tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Lucius, you're walking up to the doctor's office with another damaged person. As you get there, this priest comes out the door. Miss Alice, what are you doing at this point?
Well, I rolled a 10 on my photo.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So not great.
Yeah. Burning a chip?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay, I know that the red ones, if you burn them in combat, the bad guys get. What happens if I do it we need to do it out of combat?
No, I'm not going to worry about it.
Okay, so I'm going to do a red one.
Technically, I'm supposed to get one every time you burn one, but
Okay.
I kicked the snot out of you guys without them. I don't need help.
Let's see.
Yeah.
I'm going to burn a red one.
Okay.
Which does, what is that? Does that the roll and add? Is that what that?
What the chips do? Rules and tables.
I can never remember. Because I know there's one that.
This is why I cheat.
Again, one that you.
Roll a die and add it to your current highest die.
Okay.
So do a keep one and add it to, we had a 10 as an original score, right?
Yes. And I do the D12, right? The same kind of.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. All right. That's what I thought. Just want to make sure. So that's
Apparently somebody in chat thinks I made a Skyrim reference, and I'd like to know what it was because I didn't know that I did.
It's subtle. It's fine.
I didn't shoot anybody in the knee with an arrow. I don't know what you're talking about. So another 10. So that's 20. That is 3 raises. That is an exceptional photo. It is with the help of the funny part is Dan is standing there with his last bucket of water waiting, and when he sees you go under the hood, he chucks it on it and then dives behind a rock so he's out of the picture. And there's a fresh cloud of steam and smoke rises up, and the sunlight coming through it from the back casts these sort of weird like really clear water and then sand at the bottom. You see those ripple lines.
Mm-hmm.
This cloud kind of casts that pattern over the whole picture, and it really adds to the depth of it. You can tell this is going to be amazing when it comes out. And Dan's just hooting. He's just woo, woo, oh yeah. And he comes out after. He says, "You got it, you got it." And
Well,
he's looking up behind the rock,
of course I do.
and he immediately starts clambering up onto the locomotive, heading for the cabin.
He's doing what now?
He's just like, this is. He's reporting. He's going to see what the inside of this train looks like. This means he is heading directly into that cloud of steam and smoke.
Dan.
Yeah.
That,
He's so excited he forgot to call you Miss Alice. It's just, yeah. He's got one hand on the rungs.
that's Ghost Rock steam, Dan.
And
And you need to get out of it?
how about I wrap something around my face? I gotta
How
see. You
about-
gotta see in there. Don't you want a picture of the inside of this?
No.
And you see just a little bit of a drop in his respect for you.
Dan, that stuff is poisonous.
Well, it ain't gonna kill me tonight, right?
I might if you don't shut the hell up and get over here.
Now that scares me like nothing I've ever heard. My ex-wife used to, and he just starts climbing down off of it, and he's listening to you now. And he goes to the carriages and starts looking in the windows and making notes.
That's fine. That's not like that. There's no poison steam on those. So Alice will she'll pack up her camera, and she's done her job.
Mm-hmm.
She is going to look around the carriages just to see if there's any trace of that, whatever that thing was, for lack of.
As you're doing that, he walks up to you and he says, I was talking to some folks in town. They didn't want to talk to me because there was all the stuff going on, but somebody said there was things come out of here.
Yeah, they were it was what was it? It was husk kind of things.
They were kind of insubstantial, almost wraith-like when
Yeah.
they were in the train. And then when the hands reached out, they kind of solidified as they passed through the windows and grabbed
Okay.
these cultists and pulled them in. Once they'd done that, they took over the cultists' bodies.
Okay. But it was the cultists
That you would have seen
physical.
down here.
Okay.
Yeah. It was the cultists that walked into town.
Yeah, so they kind of were reached out and grabbed and pulled onto the train, and then the cultists stepped off of the train and went into town.
Some damn fool said there was a big red demon, too.
There was a big red something.
Now, that's the kind of logic I like to hear.
I don't
Miss,
know.
I ever told you about alternate worlds? I got a theory.
Sounds silly, but okay.
Well, it ain't silly. It's science, hon. I'm sorry, Miss Alice. Sorry, I got a little over friendly there, Miss Alice. It's science. It's
She when he says "hun," she twists the heel of her boot in the dirt.
Oh yeah, he catches it right away. I saw your face and his oh shit. And yeah, he kind of stutters for a couple seconds, and then he starts to tell you his theory, which is that there's a whole bunch of worlds, and they're right next to each other. I mean, right next, 90 degrees to reality. There's another one and another one and another one and another one. I don't believe in that magic foolishness, but science says that they're all there.
And what's
Well,
the
if this
proof?
come from there, and he just looks pointedly back at this train.
Is there any proof? Would she have heard of maybe this? I don't know if she would have.
Probably not. In reality, this didn't happen for another 80 years or so. But he says to you,
I feel like
when
this
you
is
said,
the
"Is
sort of
there
thing
any
in
proof?"
her higher social circle that
Sure.
they discuss.
It sounds like science fiction to you,
Okay.
which did exist then. But when you say, is there any proof, he just looks very pointedly up the hill where the Ghost Rock mine was.
That's not proof. That's a phenomenon that has yet to be explained.
Explain exactly. We need to go up there. We need to go in there. We need to see what the hell there is. If there's a gaping portal to another world, then will you believe me?
Are you stupid? If there was a gaping portal to another world, why would I want to walk right into it when some big red man just came out of it?
Don't you want no pictures at all? I thought you were a photojournalist. Can you imagine? You'd be on the New York Times front page.
What would
Miss
be the
Alice.
purpose of that? If I'm on there, I don't want to be dead on it.
As you wish, Miss
There's
Alice. I'm
no
going
point.
up there
There's
tomorrow.
no point to fame if it's after I'm gone.
Not sure I 100% agree with that, but I accept that for now. You're young. You don't know no better. Sorry, Miss Alice. Sorry.
She literally does what I just did and just
Yep.
blinks at him.
And he gets it. He has stepped too far too many times. He just turns around and starts taking notes again. And that is where we'll take a quick 12 to 14 minute break here. Come back just after the top of the hour, and we'll see what happens next.
Well, that Dan fella's finally starting to make some sense. I mean, he's the only one talking sense among them. Anyhow, I thought Lucius was an unsettling character. And now we've got this guy over here. But he seems helpful. I don't know. We'll find out after the break. Hooey! I reckon everyone's had a little bit of rest there. Ready for some more chaos. Here we go. Take it away, Marshal Kevin.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to the three-ring circus that is our very own Poison Paradise. This particular instance, it actually is a three-ring circus. In one ring, we have Miss Alice down by the train with her new friend Dan Comfort, who she has just told off for being insane. Slightly further away in a field and deeply and wonderfully asleep like the first day with a new mattress, Jet crashed out in the cocooned arms of his new raven friend who just showed him how to heal himself, but at a certain price. We're going to come back to the center ring, right in the middle of town. Just as Baptiste walks out of the doctor's office after performing the last rites on someone who may or may not have needed it, and then making damn sure that they did, meets face to face with Lucius, who's carrying another wounded victim to the doctor.
So I see Lucius carrying somebody. So Baptiste comes out with a very clearly dead body in his hands, looks Lucius right in the eyes and says, "You're next, son. You're in. Go on. Go ahead. You're next up in there." And gets out of the way.
Right, of course. Okay, I I take the I first take the body and just where should I put this doctor? This person.
Before you do that, I would like you to make a. What do I want you to make? I want you to make a bluff check, please.
Oh no.
What?
Give me a second. Sorry, bluff is under no.
It's under smarts, second column, about halfway down.
Actually, I might have a chance.
Against my
Wait,
overall.
sorry, wrong one.
No, I'm just doing straight bluff for him.
Where's
Yeah,
my
I don't
bluff?
need your over on this. That was plenty overawing. That was one of those no need to roll moments.
Wrong one. There I go. That's the
Okay, that you damn near drop the body when he says that. When he says you're next, it is everything you own to not just drop and run. But your training kicks in, and that professional face Even if no one wants to hire it, the professional face drops on again, and you kind of steady yourself and look, and Baptiste is walking away with the body. The door is open to the doctor's office, and you walk in.
Okay. I walk in with the body. Doctor, I have another one.
And she comes over and quickly checks a pulse and respiration. And she looks around, and all the tables are full. There's 6 of them. And there's the smell of gun smoke in this room. And she looks around the rooms, and her eyes kind of linger on the last table for a second. And then she looks back at you and she says, put them on the floor over here. I'll deal with it.
All right. Is there anything else I can do?
Yes, actually. That one on the end is yours now.
Ah, I see. I'll get it prepared.
You head over to that table, and there, sure as heck, there is a body there. It is all maimed and mutilated from the crash. Make a scrutinize check. While you're sort of starting to go over the body and prepare it, as you do. You're getting out your winding sheet and preparing her.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of checking it out. Yeah, this body has been pounded by something, and you quickly realize it must have been almost directly in the path of the train. It was amazing that this person lived any time at all. And then you wrap the winding sheet around it, and as always, the blood starts to come through. You pick up this body and carry it out into the streets, and there on the sidewalk is a whole long row of very similar bodies. Yours is the only one that's wrapped. The rest of them are just covered with sheets, and people have taken small stones to hold down the corners of the sheets and gone to great lengths to make sure that the faces are all covered.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I just go around doing what I can, even though I'm not for hire. Just do my business as I always do. I don't even care if that the local underkeeper gets pissed off at me.
Well, here's the thing: he doesn't show up. He's not here. He's not in town at all. So you are. You start doing your thing with this row of bodies along the street, and because it's a row of bodies, people are leaving you alone. They're showing you respect and dignity and allowing you to
do
your thing.
I get my carriage and my horse Dusk ready, and I just ask them. It's like, if you could start delivering them on the carriage, I'll take them to the underkeeper. Jeb. Was his name Jeb?
Jeb Early is he's the and the person you say this to starts helping you lift bodies onto the thing. It says, did he tell you he was an undertaker? He's just a grave digger.
That lying piece of shit.
Which, when you think back on it, makes sense. He wasn't dressed properly. He was wearing working man's clothes, and he was walking around the graveyard with his shovel on his shoulder.
So let me get this straight. Is there any underkeeper in this town?
Just you, son.
Oh, that asshole.
And then as you're saying this, you look your eyes sort of automatically snap towards the road to the graveyard, right? This kind of angry sort of, you prick. And you see a group of about a dozen men, all with shovels and pickaxes, clearly miners by trade. And they're heading up the trail towards the cemetery. You know what they're doing. They're going to dig graves. The only weird part about that is you normally wait 3 days.
I asked the guy, what are they doing? Usually it takes 3 days before proceeding with the necessary,
Local priest says this is a special situation. We got to bury him quick. I got a feeling he wants to put them down so they don't come back up.
Come back up, you say?
Well, it's ghost rock and stuff, and all that smoke and that train from hell and all them people.
That's particular. Well, I guess I better continue on to work. To my knowledge, would I need to register as an underkeeper here?
Undertaker, not necessarily. You look around right now. This town has been decimated. Probably a third to nearly a half of the population was either killed in the crash, killed in the gunfight, killed in the explosion of the bank, or killed by the creatures that came off the train.
Let's see. Okay.
So when I say there's a row of bodies, I mean it's long enough that you can see the perspective when you stand at one end. The ones at the other end look smaller because they're a block away.
They're just the children.
Well, we put all the kids at one end, so it makes it look even further.
Okay. I'll take as many as I can, and I guess I start heading that to the graveyard.
It's not a Halloween episode. Shut up, Kevin. You start piling them on, and these couple of people are helping you. And I mean, you're doing it again with dignity and respect. Right. The first couple, they kind of just chuck on their end, and then and you can see in their eyes, this is how it's done. This I like this better. And they start treating them with the respect that is, in your opinion, due to the dead.
And I give
them just like meat.
Like a bow of like, yeah, kind of like thank you. I will also write a note to my fellow friends. It's like, do you know my friends, the lady Alice, Jet, the deputy marshal? If you find them, give them this note. Just tell them that I'll be heading over to the graveyard with the bodies.
Ain't you going to need no help at the other end? Ain't you going to need no help unloading them?
Yeah, I will. Hold on. Let me think.
And he goes, blows a big whistle that I can't do and won't do into a microphone anyway. But he blows a big whistle, and this like 12, 13-year-old boy comes running around the corner. He says, "Son, take this. Go find that fancy red-haired lady and that dark fellow that hangs out with the sheriff."
Baptiste will come over this way. This is a place where his services would be useful.
Yep. So you volunteer to go along with Lucius?
Yeah. Once he gets up, and he just sort of claps, and it's a little too hard, but not like in a macho way, just in a old man strength kind of way. A hand on Lucius's shoulder, and says, "Well, unfortunately, this is one area where our occupations overlap."
Yes, of course. I could use your help.
He's trying very hard. You can see, Baptiste, that Lucius is trying very hard to be professional, but there's still, you can't help but notice there's a little trickle of sweat running down the side of his face every time he talks to you.
I never got your name.
Oh, I suppose things did move pretty quickly. I'm Father Baptiste Laurent Saint-Armand.
Father Baptiste, a pleasure. My name is Lucius Glory. Lucius Glory.
Shakes your hand, and kind of, while shaking your hand, pulls you that little half step in.
Yeah.
Says, "Look, son, I understand what must be going through your mind right now."
You do?
Well, I recognize the look on your face. I'm sure the young lady's going to be just fine.
Yes, thank you.
And he just goes and sits in the passenger side of the cart.
Yep. And Lucius takes a deep shuddering breath and climbs up into the driver's seat, starts to whip the horses and head out. You've got, because of this show of respect that you insist on, there's only 8 bodies on this cart because you don't want to stack them. They're laid side by side in a respectful manner. They're not crisscrossed like firewood. So, and your cart at this point, the people look and they can tell immediately it's a dark cart. It is very austere. Its purpose is obvious. And you start making your way towards the graveyard. Jet, I'm afraid you're sleeping, so keep up the popcorn. Enjoy that good night's sleep. Miss Alice, you kind of you've got a moment now. You got your camera put away. You've chased off Dan. He is no longer going into the engine. He is just taking notes and looking through the carriages.
As I'm kind of hacking my camera up, it kind of hits me all of a sudden that Alan Campbell was probably still in the bar.
And your eyes flick over to that bar, and unbelievably, Charlie from the other night. You can just see the back of his head, and that's enough. You can tell that greasy hair anywhere. And he's down digging through the rubble, and you see him stand up with a green bottle in his hand, and he's just grinning. He's wobbling. I mean, he can hardly stand. You can see his leg is clearly broken. His rib cage is slightly he's wrenched in. He shouldn't be standing. And he grabs this bottle and tilts it back, and in the sunlight from the slowly setting sun hits it. It's green, and he's just pounding absinthe. Dunk, 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 dunk.
So Charlie is he's the card shark guy, right?
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
The
one you had asked Ellie to ask if he knew Chessie. So you hadn't met him directly, but you'd seen him, and you'd had Ellie ask him that question.
I'm gonna. Well, I mean, I'm not gonna go digging through Rebel, but I'm gonna walk up to him, and
he's near that back wall because that's where the bar was.
Not really saying anything at first because I'm kind of looking at him, trying to figure out not only how is he alive, but how is he standing on 2 feet.
And as you do, he finishes off the absinthe and just haphazardly chucks the bottle, and you kind of have to duck as it flies over your head. And then he goes back to digging in the rubble, and you see he's found a little cupboard that seems to be more or less intact. And as he pulls it open, there's a very familiar 2/3 bottle of wine in there.
I just thought of that. I was just about
with a bunch of other bottles in there too. It looks like this is where he kept the good stuff. And Charlie reaches right past your wine and grabs a bottle of 18-year-old scotch. And you see him he does that power drinking thing where you hold it up and just go ding, and the cap comes spinning. You know, the thing that right now everybody's doing that backspin, kicking the bottle cap off.
Yeah.
He just does that with his hand, just ding, and it goes spinning across the room. And you get the impression that he's not going to need that cap.
I'm going to say, I guess I knew his name, right? I think that Ellie had said his name.
Yeah,
okay.
Ellie told you his name was Charlie.
Charlie.
Shit! And he turns to look at you like he had no clue you were there. You're that lady from the bar.
Yeah.
Look what they did to my bar.
Well, it wasn't your bar.
That's mean.
It was.
Did you own
What? More than that. You got a minute? It's kind of a tough story. But first I got to get drunk, because if this damn puka sobers up, he going to kill everybody. And he just jumps, starts pounding scotch.
If the... Hold on.
That is the face of somebody who knows what a puka is.
Alice says, "No, what is that? Some kind of animal or something? What?"
You ever heard of little people? Like leprechauns?
You mean people that are beneath you?
I wouldn't say that to a leprechaun, but and he looks at you real hard and he says, "I don't think you'd believe."
Well, but I believe in what I see.
He said, "All right then, watch this." And he drains a 26-ounce bottle of 18-year-old scotch in one go. Just da-dunk, da-dunk, da-dunk. He's already drank half a bottle of absinthe. This is within a minute. And he finishes it and just chucks it to the side. And then he goes, You want me to stand on one foot? I can do that too. And he stands on one foot. He walks a straight line back and forth.
Is he standing on the foot? Hold on. This is important. Is
The
he standing
broken
on the
leg,
foot?
every time he takes a step, the leg goes.
Yep. Okay.
But there's no reaction from, there's no pain reaction from him.
Alice is like, she says, well, I believe you are the third or fourth crazy man that I have seen today.
You think that's crazy? Watch this. And he reaches down and closes the cupboard doors. And one of his ribs pops back to where it should be. What's your name, miss? I forgot from last night. I had a bit of a knock on the head.
You don't say. What is happening right now? Okay. You don't say.
When I said, this is my bar, I meant it quite literally.
My name is Alice O'Hare.
Pleasure to meet you, ma'am. Normally I'd have a card trick or two, but, and he holds up his hand and there's two burnt little playing cards in his hand. You can see one of them was the deuce of spades. The other one was the three of hearts.
She says, trust me, I've seen enough card tricks to last a while.
That's
And she
good, 'cause
says-
you can't do much with two cards.
She says, however, that bottle of wine in that cupboard, I paid good money for that. Could you pass that to me?
He pulls the doors open again. The rib goes, it breaks again. He hands you the bottle of wine, reaches in the back, pulls out a bottle of whiskey for himself, and does that, ting, spinning the lid off again.
Alice will like gingerly wrap this $120 bottle of wine.
Yep.
and tuck it away in the safest place.
And he closes the doors again. That rib pops back out to the healed position. And with the bottle in one hand, he starts walking around the rubble. And he's picking up mostly broken chairs and standing them up. And these mostly broken tables and standing them up.
Alice says, your little bone trick aside, did you see was Mr. Campbell in here when that train came crashing through?
You mean the fellow what was drinking that absinthe? And as he puts the last chair, there's now 4 chairs around a table in the corner. As he puts the last chair in place, his leg right in front of you heals.
Yeah, that would be the one.
Desperately trying to maintain eye contact with him while this is happening.
Yeah.
Not
yeah.
look at what just happened. Yeah.
She's like, no, this is some weird shit.
And
going
he's
on.
just alternating, having great big swigs of this whiskey and trying to put his bar back together. He says, oh, that Campbell fella, what's left of him is over there behind the bar along with Ted. They didn't make it.
Well,
And at that, he has another big drink.
Alice will say, well, Ellie will be very upset about one of those pieces of news.
And he just nods his head at you, has another big drink.
Alice is curious at this point. So she's standing like, she's not in the rubble. I just want to make that clear.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Is there any like chair or anything that she could set right that's like within her reach?
There's sort of the end of a bench. It wouldn't be very, there's no Victorian era proper chair here. That's for damn sure. There wasn't when this bar was open.
Yeah.
But there is sort of the end of a bench sort of sticking out of the wall.
Alice will just kind of look him in the eyes and like sit the bench up.
And you see his left pinky finger, which was broken, like it was bent back like that, just goes back where it was. Oh, thank you, miss. Oh.
Uh-huh. That is some mighty fine trick you've got there.
That's not so much a trick, ma'am.
How are
That's
you doing
more,
that? What is it? Prosthetics?
Me and this bar, miss, we're the same. Whatever happens to it, happens to me. Whatever happens to me, happens to it.
Well, you both got hit by a train.
You don't have to tell me, miss. He looks down at his crushed ribs and his still one broken arm. You enjoy that wine, miss?
She says, I'm going to just leave you to it.
And he digs through the rubble around his feet, and amazingly, he pulls out a wine glass. He just hands it across to you. He says, wouldn't be ladylike to drink out of the bottle.
She says, you assume I plan to drink it now.
No, ma'am. Just put that glass with the bottle, if I may be so bold. I am rather an
She'll
expert
take it,
in the
but
field, and she...
as she takes the wine glass, she'll say, you may not. And then she just tucks it away and turns around and leaves.
Mm-hmm. I assume she put it in her bustle, because they're kind of, that's kind of...
Yeah.
Ladies in the 1870s had a trunk.
There was
really
like
cool.
a pocket. Yeah. Yeah. But she'll also wrap it and make sure that it doesn't break.
Yeah, and as you do and walk away, there's more and more of this. He's starting to put more and more of this bar back together, and as he does, he is knitting himself back together in front of you. He's now on his third bottle in 5 minutes, and he's stone cold sober as far as you can tell.
Yeah, Alice is convinced that she's hallucinating because she's been exposed to the ghost rock.
Yeah, you're looking at the smoke. Well, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. She's thinking like, well, maybe when Dan was over there messing around, he contaminated me with some of that when he came back this way.
And you head back towards the hotel?
No, I guess my first stop would be because I'd be to go check on Ellie.
Okay, so the doctor's office.
I would go to find Ellie and then try to find Jet, because Lucius wasn't hurt and he's probably dealing with bodies or something.
Yep. You actually see him and Baptiste heading south out of town with this cart. You hadn't actually seen the cart before, but it's this gray horse and this black cart, obviously an Undertaker's cart, like everything about Lucius. It's really obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And with these wrapped bodies on the back, the two of them on the cart heading towards the cemetery.
Okay. Yeah, that tracks. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. That's one thing I'm not hallucinating. And then going to the doctor's office to see what Ellie's status is.
See how Ellie's doing. Perfect. So we will skip back to our two on the way to the cemetery. It's like any decent town. It's half a mile to the cemetery through this forest. And like any cemetery, as you approach, there's a sense of... It's not peace, but it is quiet. There's a sense of almost spirits. There's something hallowed about this space, like there is about all proper graveyards. And as you guys get there, and actually get to the graveyard itself, let me just quickly look at this and make sure there's nothing on here that's a giveaway. Let's get rid of that. Just get rid of the tokens that aren't there. There we go. So the two of you eventually pull your way into the cemetery on the cart. And as you do so, you see on the far side, first of all, what you see, the center of this is a cemetery of two parts. Very clear. The priest has definitely seen this. The Undertaker has definitely seen this. This is the rich and everybody else. In the middle, there are 8 different shaped mausoleum. To the north, there's 2 side by side. They're the same size, and on one, there's a male figure carved in marble, and on the one right next to it, there's a female figure carved in marble. But the two sarcophagi are very different styles. And the man's one looks older than the woman's one by a couple of years. And the other ones are larger structures, obviously open mausoleums. Right in the very center, there is a statue of it's of Jesus with his hands out in that receiving gesture, that very famous sort of waiting for the body to be placed here gesture. And then around the perimeter, just inside a black wrought iron fence, are the graves of everyone else. And across the back, there are that group of men that you saw, plus Jeb, digging fresh graves. Because they're prospectors and miners, they're not hanging about. There's a number already dug, and they're on their sort of second or third one each. The only other thing you notice about this graveyard is it's damn near full. And this town's only been here 20 years.
Quite the sight.
Yes. Well, I suppose we should get to it.
And there is one other person I didn't mention. Behind these mausoleum, you hear the banging of a hammer. And as you sort of pull in a little further, you can see there's a man building simple pine coffins.
Okay. I suppose first thing that we should probably do is go ahead and unload the bodies. Maybe send one of these miners back with the cart, and you and I can get to our rights.
Sounds reasonable.
And yeah, as the two of you sort of settle into your professions, it just becomes automatic. The blessing, the taking it off the cart, the putting it in the box. The man nails the box shut. One final blessing. It doesn't go in the hole right away. They're lining them up. They're going to have a public burial of all these people. But what you're told, which is odd, is that this is going to happen tomorrow morning, only one day after they were killed. Which strikes both of you as odd.
I don't know how.
Whoever says that to him, Baptiste, just whose decision would that be?
That'd be mostly the sheriff and the doctor. He said stuff wasn't right.
Is there a possibility of using some of my knowledge of all things occult to see if there's reason behind this?
Absolutely. Give me an occult roll.
Alrighty.
So that would be a keep one with whatever your stat is. Okay.
It's okay. That's okay.
That's all right. This is an old, almost like an old wives' tale. This is up there with spiking a vampire or putting rocks on the chest of someone you're afraid is going to come back. They're afraid they're going to come back.
And would Baptiste understand that this is not what they're afraid of may be valid, but this is not the way to deal with it?
It will certainly not be what in his religious role what he would do. There are things that are supposed to happen. It takes 3 days for a reason. So
right. Okay. Whatever miner is being sent back to the cart with the cart, after I'm assuming Lucius says, "Hey, only bring 8," blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Say, what's your name, sir?
Thomas.
Thomas, would you please do me the exceptional favor of inquiring whether or not the sheriff could grace us with his presence, and in the relayance of this message, let him know that it is not quite a polite suggestion.
And his eyes get big because you're giving him the look. And yes, sir.
In fact, the stare.
The stare, yes. And he immediately leaps to do this. He doesn't even, he opens his mouth to speak and nothing comes out. And he goes to hop on the cart. And as he starts to drive away, he turns and says, maybe I better bring the priest too.
Oh, I would be quite interested to meet that young man.
And he looks like he's going to like really give the horses some welly to get them to go. And then he realizes this is a funereal cart. And
I look at him also like, careful. I'll also give him the stare.
Yep. And I mean, it's bad enough. There's this dirty prospector all covered in mud driving your cart, right? So
nice.
But he at least now is doing it with some respect.
So in that moment, when you start to give him the stare as well, and Baptiste sort of sees that, and it's that moment of game recognized game. And in that, like, actually Baptiste will sort of, his shoulders relax a little bit more, and as we go back and forth and doing our separate rites, he says, so, young man, I'm sorry, your name was?
Thomas, sir.
No, you're gone, Thomas. I'm
Thomas
talking,
is gone. This is the other.
Talking to the Undertaker.
This is my other brother, Thomas.
This is
the under.
My brother Daryl. This is my other brother Daryl.
Yes.
That's on Monday nights. I'm in the New Heart show.
Yeah.
So this is you want to talk now to the sort of the head grave digger?
No. I'm talking to.
To Lucius. Okay.
Lucius, yeah. But I don't think Baptiste got his name.
Right.
It was Lucius.
Lucius. I want to offer my condolences for it of horrors it is that you must have seen. It seems to have shaken you quite a bit. I'm not sure if you're a particularly religious man. Religion doesn't seem to stick to those in your profession.
Well, I like to think of myself flexible. I like to know kind of all things, in a sense, especially those about death in particular.
Well, I met a flexitarian once, but she was in a very different line of work.
Yes, indeed.
Was her name Chesty?
Nice callback. Yeah.
But I've seen a manner of things, and putting back pieces of bodies. So just another day, I suppose.
What is it that necessarily brought you and your fellow comrades to this sleepy little hamlet on the edge of hell?
I actually met them on the train, and we were ambushed by bandits.
Said train that is upside down in the middle of the thoroughfare?
No, not that one. It was the train from the. Sorry, what's the city it would be from?
You guys were going from Denver to Dodge City.
Yes, Denver from Dodge City. So not that hellish inferno contraption, but just a regular train. The bandits blew up the bridge, and we've been kind of stowed away here in this town.
Lucius, if I may ask you a question that is verging on the much more personal of variety.
Sure.
Your dialect would seem to be from the city of Lost Angels.
Yes.
The sweat doubles.
How very perceptive of you.
Never made my way that far west, but it does tend to stick out.
Yes, it does.
You're out here on a mission from your great leader?
No, I have no affiliation with that man, none whatsoever.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm a bit on the outs with the great man in my line of work as well.
I can quite agree with you on that. My family was. Well, we didn't really like him, and he didn't really like us.
And he reaches in to his vestments and pulls out, and it's a flask on it, and he opens it up and takes a drink out of it and hands it over to you. To lost fathers.
To lost fathers. Sure.
It's poison. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, God.
And the two of you go back to your terrible but necessary work. Meanwhile, in town. Which one do I want to do first? Jet. In this dream. I said there was no dreams that night. There isn't a dream. There's a feeling. Two feelings. One of being completely safe. This cocoon of feathers around you. Every once in a while you move, they move with you, they move to adjust. They're blocking out the whole world. All that pain, all those bad dreams, they're all outside. But so is the light. It's absolutely black in here. And in the very distance, you hear a female voice singing in a language you don't understand, but it's very rhythmic. And then it gets a little bit louder, and there's the pounding of feet. Someone is dancing and singing. And out of this blackness, outlined in white light, like an outline, almost exactly like a three-dimensional version of those tarot cards that you've seen so far. You see a young lady with long black hair, so black it reflects blue in the light. And she's dancing wildly in front of a fire, singing. You can see the sweat pouring off of her. You can tell she's been dancing for hours. And just as she starts to stumble, as she starts to fall, she reaches out with her hand and lifts it up. And out of the ground in front of her, a Mojave rattler rises. All 80 feet long of it. And it hovers above her and does this sort of snake thing. And she continues to dance, and she continues to hold her hand, and then she snaps her hand shut and pulls it down. And the Mojave rattler, clearly against its will, is driven back into the soil. And you have a flashback. This isn't the first time you've seen her. She was at the farm. She stopped that Mojave rattler from eating that family in that house all those years ago. And she turns to look at you like she's just seen you there, and she smiles. But it's not a friend smile. It's not a girlfriend smile. It's motherly. Like she wants to protect you. Like she wants to save you. She holds up her arms like this, and you see a small scar on one and a big, fresh, ripped wound on the other that match yours perfectly. And you drift back into the darkness. I'm waiting to see if you respond at all. You're muted.
No, I know I was muted. I'm like, I don't know what to say to that.
You don't have to say anything. Maybe it's just an experience.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
She's been in your world all that time. And you kind of stir in your sleep, and then the wings close around you, and that cocoon feeling comes back. But it's a little tighter, just a little bit constricting.
Like uncomfortably so.
Not quite, just like mom tucked you in and did it too tight.
I'm just gonna wriggle a little bit, I guess, just a little.
And they adjust and loosen off just that fraction to make it comfortable again. And back into that wonderful, marvelous, dream-free oblivion you go. Miss Alice, you are doing your thing, and
Yep.
Dan comes jogging back up to you. I mean, this is kind of funny because this is a pudgy little middle-aged man with his little press hat on, and he like he's not used to running.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a piece of paper in his hand. It's folded in half, and he says, Miss Alice, your daddy sent a telegram." And he's kind of grinning. He says, "He sent it to every newspaper between Denver and Dodge City."
She'll say, "Oh, Lewis," and like reach out her hand for the.
He hands you the piece of paper, and he looks scared. And as soon as he gives it to you, he backs off a step, like not a lot, just out of swinging range.
She says, "Did you read this?"
I had to write it down, miss. It's my job. That don't happen automatically. It comes through all dots and dashes and such. And you would know that a telegram, the way you got them in those days, they took the ticker tape and glued it to the paper so you could see the original message, and then they would translate writing above it. So that's what he's handed you. So there was, he had to read it.
She grabs him by his collar and says, "Not a word," and like lets him go and just stares at him. And
It ain't a story, miss. It ain't a story at all. It
She
ain't a
doesn't
story to
open-
anybody but you.
she does an overall and like she gives him the stare.
Yep. Oh yeah. You guys are so much scarier than these people. This is not anything that needs to get rolled out, right? This is, you just fought Baphomet, and then you told him, "Hey, behave." He went, "Yep."
Yeah.
These are regular people, right? These are not hardened people at all. I mean, he's a newspaper man, but you are you
Yeah.
can be very awe-inspiring.
Yeah. Hell hath no fury like a woman's scorn.
That's right. So you flip open that that telegram.
She's gonna duck off somewhere though.
Fair enough. And he kind of, as soon as you're out of range, he just turns and scurries. It's the only word that applies here. He just gone.
Mm-hmm.
You find a quiet place and you flip that page open. And it's from your father. And it says, "Dearest daughter, was wondering if you still had money left from what you left with. Stop. Small financial problem here. Not to worry. Stop. Please respond soonest. Stop."
Oh shit.
You know there's a telegraph office at the post office, and you know there's a telegraph office at the newspaper.
Well, since Dan is already, scared quiet,
Mm-hmm.
and she's fairly confident that she doesn't have to worry about him running his mouth. for
Mhm.
fear of what will happen to him, she'll go there.
And as you walk in, he's pouring himself a cup of coffee out of a percolator that was sitting on top of the stove. And he kind of slops a little bit when you come in. He puts the percolator down, takes the coffee with him. I'll just go for a walk, miss. Telegraph's right over there. The letters is and he just out the door.
And I haven't
Seeing
gotten
as
my
how your
check
seeing
yet,
how your
right?
daddy's in the business, you know how a teletype machine or how
Yeah.
you know how a telegram works. Now, very, very quickly, out of character, Sarah, I'm not taking away your benefit. I have a plan.
Okay.
Okay, back in character.
Alice is kind of, I mean, nobody's there.
Nope,
so,
it's just you.
Nobody knows, but
No reason to act anyway.
Alice is, for lack of a better word, shook.
Yeah. It's running through your head. Without money, why am I special? We won't be able to go to the right parties. We won't be able to.
Yeah. Well, and
could
in
all
all of
come
her life,
crashing
have
down.
never had financial difficulties.
Never. Money has always just been something you asked for. And if you asked for 20, you got 50. If you asked for 100, you got 500.
Yeah.
And he just sent a telegram to 50 places that says that. So you're standing in front of the telegraph machine by yourself. Look over and see Dan's got the story of the train wreck half typeset already. There's a big space for your picture.
She's like, she paces for a while before she's just like, I don't know what to do. Like, she's like, I kind of have my own problems right now. Like, I don't really, but she'll eventually kind of come back to it, and she'll say, in the letter, it'll say, she'll address it Lewis, especially right now. It'll say, Lewis, what have you done?
You send it. And you're just about to like turn around and walk away, and it starts to chatter. And the little piece of paper starts to come out. Dots and dashes.
I assume Alice would know how to do this part too.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a master code there if you needed it, but I mean, your daddy has been in the newspaper industry for a long time, and this is how they communicate. So, as far as I'm concerned, you can bang this out pretty quick. It's much longer than the first one.
Oh God!
You start translating the start of it, and the end of it's still coming out of the machine. But what it says when you're done is, our bank refused loan to important person due to criminal activity of said person. Stop. All accusations true and proven. Stop. Still many lawsuits filed against us. Stop. Including freezing our assets. Sure to resolve, but not soon. Stop. Hence request regarding current state of your wallet. Stop. And okay, go ahead.
No,
you made it by a second. You made it by a second.
She's gonna respond. And all it's gonna say is, I'm dealing with my own issues. I can send 200. And then just a long, like, stop. And then at the very last line of it before, regards Alice, would say, all the assets, even it, ?
And this time, there's no immediate response. And you stand there and wait. Stand there and wait. Just when you're about to turn and leave, two things happen at once. The machine starts to tick very quick, like 12 symbols. And it just pops out. You don't even have to translate it. You look down, it's 3 letters. It says yes. Sorry, 6 letters. Yes. All. And at the same time, behind you, Dan comes back in, which a little shocking because he just gave you this space.
Mm-hmm.
And he's grinning like an idiot, and he's holding up this piece of metal. It's about 12 inches on a side. And it's all got this blackish purple slimy shit stuck to it.
It's the daguerreotype plate.
He says, we got the plates, we got the plates. And that is where we'll end tonight.
Ryan's face.
No.
You're muted, Ryan. I don't know if you want us to hear what you're saying.
I thought we had another half an hour. Damn it!
No, these ones tend to go a little bit shorter because they tend to be a little intense.
Oh man!
Woo!
Boy, howdy!
Work it out. It was intense. All right. Well, whoo-wee. A lot of lore getting dropped there. Anything?
Oh, you give me backstories, I will use them against you.
This Baptiste character sure is intriguing. I hope he gets to come back real soon.
Fun.
Until next week, oof, y'all hold on to your breeches and get a change ready. Cause ain't going on long. Anyways, take us home, Kevin.
Oh, wow. Let's make this quick because that was exhausting. First of all, thank you to all the people that watched. I really appreciate it. I know we all appreciate it. We would, to be quite honest, we'd probably do this anyway, but it's way more fun when you know somebody's watching. So thank all of you for that. And then huge thanks again to my co-storytellers this evening. I did it again. I made some of you sit around for like 40 minutes at a time doing nothing. And you took it and you sat there and you listened and you stayed invested. And for that, I love all of you. And with that, the timing. Thank you, whoever. Wow. That was amazing. Thank you. And with that, my wonderful storytelling friends, let's do it in the reverse order that we did on the way in. Sarah playing the recently broke Alice.
Oh.
At the far end, the Undertaker who has the fear of God in him and maybe the fear of the law as well. Lucius, played by Lesimax. Our new player, although it didn't show, he fit in like he's been here for years. We haven't been here for years, and we fit in that well. Ryan from Roll for Initiative playing a very interesting gunslinging priest. I want to see where this goes. Baptiste has made his appearance. And last but definitely not least, the man I have been picking on for weeks. And I'll tell you the same thing I tell you every week. One of these weeks, there's going to be a payoff. There really is. Although you can heal yourself now. And I'll send you the individual stats on that over the course of the next week.
So you got that. Before you sign off,
yes,
a few reminders just for the audience. Make sure that you check out Ryan as well as Dawn, who plays Kid 3 in Too Many Warlocks, over on Roll for Initiative. Check them out on YouTube. They have great videos about gaming of all sorts, but especially some good stuff about role playing. And so, as you can see, he's a good man to take advice from on that front.
Yeah. He happens to be very good at this.
Yes. Also, a reminder: if you got Twitch Prime, or if you got Amazon Prime, you got Twitch Prime. And if you got Twitch Prime, you get that subscription once a month. And this month, all of our revenue from subscriptions is going to our campaign that we're doing with Daddy Warbucks. Plug for Daddy Warbucks. Check out his fantastic channel. He brought us into it. But it is an Extra Life campaign, so we're trying to add to that a little bit. And also remember, it's September, so new first tier subs. If you don't have your Twitch Prime available, but you want to help out anyways, half price, only $2.50, and all that is going straight to Extra Life. So get in on that. Also, October 3rd, the Pontus Rises, and if you don't know what that means, you haven't been paying attention. Check with Jet; he'll tell you all about it. Check us out on Discord, and Kevin, take us out.
Yeah, you guys can find us and all the stuff that we do when we're not playing D&D on all of our various social medias. There's many places to find us: Twitch, YouTube, all those wonderful places. Actually, our fine, wonderful friend Noctum Sky has started to really put some effort into the YouTube channel, and it is showing immediate and improving dividends every day. So thank him for that. Thanks to everybody involved in this. Thank you again, because sometimes I forget the invisible man sitting behind the screen. The sound effects were great again tonight, Jonathan. The production was amazing. Thank you for everything you do. These guys all make me look good. So thank everybody for that. And until next week, we'll shoot you next time. Good night.
A storm beset us and a giant squid attacked. The ship's all cracked and then we sank into the sea so black. Our bag of holding opened, we lost all our treasure. So tell me, Mr. DM, was this business or just pleasure? 2012 10 864